Hello, and welcome to the next video for Daily Weather Charts, where, as you know, we're analyzing different weather maps for the United States and piecing them together for the forecast for the next couple of days. Today's charts are valid for April 26, 2023, but I am recording close to midnight, so most of you will probably won't see this until the 27th. If you see this, leave a like and subscribe, and we'll get started. So since I'm recording at night, we don't have visible satellite images, so we'll start with the upper level water vapor view. And we see the big player here is a swirl down here in the southern plains in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. This storm system is the one that's causing the severe weather threat in Texas today and yesterday. And so switching to the infrared image, I'm going to show that for this video. We're going to see some pretty deep convection over central and eastern Texas once this loads up. And this is associated with a line of severe storms that is tracking through Texas tonight. Scattered showers and storms are, and here is the deep convection I was talking about. This is loading up. And so the brighter colors here is where you see the stronger updrafts in these thunderstorms down here in Texas. And so this is just showing you the cloud tops, the temperature of your cloud tops. And so the brighter temperatures equals colder cloud tops, which equals stronger updrafts in your storms. So switching to the radar view for the country tonight, we have scattered showers and storms that are ongoing over the lower Mississippi Valley and deep south tonight. These will increase in coverage as we go through the day tomorrow. The storm system shifts to the east. Storm reports from today. Let me pull that up. So the storm reports from the day. So far, we have no tornado reports, although there were some storms that had tornado warnings. So we'll see if there's anything confirmed by the National Weather Service in the coming days. But we do have several large hail reports, some over 3 inches in diameter in Texas. We had a report, I believe, of about 4.5 inches, 4.5 inch diameter hail, which is pretty ginormous. That is more, I believe, greater than softball size. And we had tennis ball to baseball size hail in Florida, which is pretty unusual for this time of year, and a pretty unusual place to have large hail in general. So they've had a unique weather setup over the past couple of days. So next, we're going to go to our upper air charts, and we're going to start in the upper atmosphere, and we see the upper level low that is associated with that swirl that we saw in our water vapor imagery. And we have the jet stream from West Texas up into Arkansas and Missouri. And we have a secondary jet stream over the Gulf of Mexico. And so this is helping to create the upper air support over Texas and Louisiana, the spreading part of our wind vectors here. And so that's going to create a void in the atmosphere, and then so it's going to take air from below and rise it up to this level to fill that void. And so that's what's causing the upper air support for thunderstorms tonight in Texas and Louisiana, and eventually into Louisiana. And so switching to our 500 millibar chart, which is the midsection of our atmosphere, we have a shortwave trough that is digging down into West Texas. We only see modest wind speeds coming out of this trough here in Texas, which limits the environmental response out ahead of this storm system. And this is one of the limiting factors for the severe weather threat with this system. That's been one of the questions over the past couple of days is, are we going to get a strong enough response in the lower levels to foster a severe weather threat? Which today we did get storms in the warm sector. And so that's going to be a question tomorrow again. And we'll dig into that a little bit later. And then we're going to switch to our surface map here. And you can see that suppressed low-level response, environmental response here. We don't have a tight surface cyclone here on the surface. And so that's going to have to redevelop if we're going to maintain a severe weather threat in the deep south tomorrow. And so surface moisture is streaming northward as forecasted. Here, as you can see in the higher dew points here. So these are our 60-degree dew points up here, and these are going to be returning northward ahead of that storm system that's going to be approaching from the west. And so I'll show the current SPC outlooks for the next couple of days. And I'm recording this about an hour or so before they're going to be updated. So the outlooks that I'm showing right now may look different by the time you see this, but I'll go ahead and show what we've got for now. This is for tonight. That is valid through 7 a.m. Thursday morning. And the SPC has maintained an enhanced risk over central and eastern Texas for tonight. And then they have a slight risk surrounding that enhanced risk in Texas and Louisiana, with the marginal risk extending all the way into Alabama, as storms in Texas tonight that are going to track to the east. And so, and they do maintain a slight risk of severe weather for the Florida Peninsula, but I believe storms have probably dissipated by now. Let me check and see if that's the case. And yeah, storms have pretty much died out in Florida. So at the time they issued the outlook, there were probably some storms ongoing, but they have since dissipated. So we'll look and see here the tornado threat. They do have a risk of tornadoes overnight in eastern Texas and Louisiana, and with a still maintaining a damaging wind threat and a large hail threat, although that is going to be decreasing since storms are organizing to a line, and damaging winds here is going to become the dominant threat as we go through the evening. So that is the outlook through 7 a.m. Thursday. We're going to switch to Thursday from 7 a.m. Thursday to 7 a.m. Friday. And the SPC has extended that marginal risk northward into Arkansas, West Tennessee, and further north into Mississippi and Alabama, with a slight risk down there in South Texas and over the Gulf Coast more broadly. And then the SPC has also added a marginal risk for the Central High Plains and into the Rockies, with another storm system that's going to be coming through over the next few days. So let's look here at the risk here. The tornado threat, they do have a tornado threat that is over the Gulf Coast, over Louisiana, from New Orleans, Louisiana, up into Dothan, Alabama. That's where the tornado threat right now is going to peak, with storms that track across the Gulf Coast during the day, Thursday. And then they have added another tornado risk for Little Rock, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, and into northwest Alabama. For Thursday afternoon, there is potential for storms to redevelop in this area that could foster a tornado threat. They also have a risk of damaging winds over the Gulf Coast, and that extends up into where the marginal risk over here. And then also a chance for some large hail, although that is a lesser threat overall, except for South Texas. And then for the day 3 outlook, we do have a marginal risk that shifts to the east over the southeastern U.S. coast. And then we do have a slight risk that is introduced for much of central Texas. That is going to be associated with the next storm system that's going to be pushing through here over the weekend. And so now I'm going to look a little bit more deeply into Thursday's severe weather threat, since that is going to be over the domain for this channel over the lower Mississippi Valley and Deep South. So we're going to start here at 7 a.m. Thursday. We're going to start with tracking this shortwave trough here. And one thing to note here is that the winds coming out of this trough do strengthen. They do intensify as we go through Thursday afternoon. And so that is something to watch for, and that could provide additional support for a severe weather threat. One thing you might expect here is with strengthening winds coming out of that trough, you would expect to see winds strengthening the low levels here. And then I'm switching to 850 millibars as we track through Thursday. I would expect to see a strengthening of the winds here as a response to the strengthening of your mid-level jet. But that doesn't really appear to be the case. winds, and about this is about 1.5 kilometers off the ground. The winds here don't really exceed even 30 knots, which is about 40 miles per hour, give or take. And so that is one thing here that could end up limiting the overall tornado threat is there could the lower levels of the atmosphere may not really be conducive for a higher end severe weather threat, which would be a good thing here. So that is one thing that we'll have to watch for as we go through Thursday. Let's track here on the surface map here what's the model here is thinking. And this is what I'm using here is what's called the high resolution ensemble forecast. And so what this does is this takes into account some of the high resolution models and basically takes an average of all of them. So this is just the average and can create kind of what the expectation is here over the next coming days. And so looking here on the surface chart and want to see here a tightening surface cyclone and that moisture, I want to see that coming up from the Gulf. And so this is at around 8 o'clock in the morning here. So we'll track here. The surface cyclone here is somewhere in the vicinity of eastern Oklahoma and western Arkansas here, with your cold front draping down here across eastern Texas, somewhere in this vicinity. And then the warm front here would be situated somewhere across Arkansas, southern Mississippi, or central Mississippi, and southern Alabama, along and south of I-20, of the I-20 corridor. So we're going to watch this low pressure as it tracks to the north, or to the northeast. Let's go up to around 1 p.m. here, and we see that the surface low is remains pretty suppressed here. We don't see that much tightening of your surface low. It's still somewhere back and maybe tracked a little bit further to the east in western Arkansas, with your cold front somewhere in Texas or getting into Louisiana, and your warm front is pushing to the north, and so that's something you want to see for a severe weather threat. It's located somewhere in northern Mississippi and northern Alabama, where you see that 60-degree dew points surging to the north over here. And so that is why the Storm Prediction Center has extended that marginal risk up into this region right in here, where the warm sector does appear to at least tries to advect to the north. And then we look into Thursday evening. We do see surface low pressure somewhat consolidating over eastern Arkansas and northwest Tennessee, with your warm front situated somewhere, let me pull it back up, somewhere across northern Alabama and into Georgia. And so now we're going to switch to reflectivity here and what the some of the short range guidance is showing. I'm going to switch to our southeast sector here. And so we're going to watch one of our shorter range models, the what's called the HRRR, which stands for High Resolution Rapid Refresh model. And this model so far has done a pretty good job, I think, with today. So I'm going to go ahead and use this model to track the storms for tomorrow. And so this is only one possible scenario for storms tomorrow. The actual radar may not look like this. It may look similar to this though. So let's see what this model does for Thursday. And at around 7 o'clock in the morning, it's got storms that are tracking across Mississippi, close to Jackson, Mississippi, down into Louisiana, maybe west of New Orleans, at around 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. We do also see some rain showers north of that warm frontal boundary, and that is something that we're going to have to watch to see here what impact these rain showers have on the environment. Sometimes rain showers north of the warm front can slow down the progression of it. And so we'll have to see if the warm front can still progress to the north here. Let's go forward to around 9 or 10 o'clock. Storms will be getting into around the Mobile area. And then if we go into the early afternoon hours, showers and storms are ongoing across northwest Florida, southern Alabama. And then they mostly stay south of I-20, which is why the Storm Prediction Center is cutting off the slight risk and only including the southern parts of Mississippi and Alabama. And these storms, we'll have to watch what these storms do to the environment behind them. And so it's possible that these storms could end up sapping the low-level moisture and instability. And so these could end up stealing the energy from further north, and the storms would struggle to redevelop. But if it doesn't, if the moisture and instability is still able to stream northward into, say, eastern Arkansas, northern Mississippi, western Tennessee, storms could end up redeveloping later in the afternoon. This is what the model is forecasting the radar to look like around 4 o'clock. And this is where you see the additional storms start to redevelop from Little Rock, Arkansas, into Memphis, and perhaps even into northwest Alabama. And if the environment is able to recover from the storms from earlier in the day, these could have the potential to be severe, with mainly a damaging wind and large hail threat, with the low-level jet and the environmental wind speeds in the lower levels being pretty weak. I don't think there's going to be much of a tornado threat, but the Storm Prediction Center has gone ahead and put a marginal tornado threat for this region, pretty much as a just in case if storms try to rotate. And these storms that do redevelop, will maintain a rather discrete storm mode. As you can see here, it's not really a solid line here out in Arkansas, Mississippi, and maybe even into northwest Alabama between 4 and 6 p.m., 4 and 6 or 7 p.m. And so that is something that we'll need to watch for in its potential redevelopment out in eastern Arkansas, northern Mississippi, and perhaps into northwest Alabama as we go into the evening hours. This is around 10 o'clock Thursday evening. Storms are ongoing across western Tennessee over Memphis, northern Mississippi, and then eventually we'll track into northwest Alabama, perhaps sometime after 10 o'clock or so. And then this is around 2 o'clock in the morning that the model is forecasting. And so storms probably approach the I-65 corridor sometime. See, if we scroll back here, so perhaps we get a round of storms in northern Alabama between, say, 3 and 5 p.m. Thursday, if this model is correct. And then we might get another round again later Thursday night. And we'll have to watch both of those rounds for the potential of severe, isolated strong or severe storms. And it'll be interesting to see what the Storm Prediction Center does with the next update in this convective outlook. I suspect they may try and do an upgrade for parts of eastern Arkansas and northern Mississippi if storms can redevelop. So it may not come in the next update, but maybe perhaps in the later updates if once storm initiation becomes a little more certain. So it does look like storms will track the final round of storms will track over I-65 or western Alabama and I-65 somewhere between say 10 p.m. and probably 2-3 a.m. perhaps. And then they're tracking over eastern Alabama, and they probably weaken by this point between around 3 o'clock in the morning till around, say, 5 or 6 a.m. So by sunrise Friday morning, storms should be out of here for the most part. And so, again, we'll just rehash this. We have the first round of rain for North Alabama. We have the first round of rain sometime between around 1 o'clock in the morning through probably around 9 or 10 a.m. We'll go with that. And then storms to our south that are going to be ongoing across eastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi between, let's say, between 5 a.m. and tracking through Mobile around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and then going through northwest Florida and southern Georgia later in the afternoon. The next round could redevelop as early as 3 o'clock, but probably waits till around 4, 5, or 6 p.m. time frame over northern Alabama. And then to our west, we're watching renewed development out in Mississippi and eastern Arkansas later in the afternoon. Those make it into northwest Alabama by as early as 10 o'clock at night, but it may be closer to 11 or midnight before we see the final round of storms. And then those track over I-65 sometime around 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then they are on out of here by sunrise Friday morning. So it's kind of a complex setup that we got for Thursday. Multiple rounds of rain. Potential for a severe weather threat to develop. Say probably around or after 4 o'clock. This is not a higher end threat of severe weather. This is more of a lower end type threat. Mostly a damaging wind and large hail threat. We'll have to see if a tornado threat will materialize, but I'm unsure of that at the moment. And so if I do need to update again, if the threat starts ramping up, then I will, of course, let you know. And so now I'm going to move on here to our national charts. For the rest of tonight, severe storms will continue to track through Texas and Louisiana. Showers and storms will become more numerous across the southern United States more broadly. The warm front will lift north, and that could set the stage for additional storms to develop on Thursday. Some of these storms could be strong to severe ahead of the cold front that is tracking through the lower Mississippi Valley. That's going to be tracking through Mississippi and Alabama Thursday night. And then another cold front will surge southeastward through the central United States. And that's going to be our next storm system that I am watching. And then for Friday, we are going to be watching two storm systems, one in the southeast with additional storms along the coast, and another tracking into the central United States. Severe thunderstorms could redevelop in southern Texas and southern central Texas ahead of that cold front. And we'll look into that system a little bit more deeply as that system gets closer. And so, again, for Thursday, the severe weather threat is not a higher end threat, but it is just high enough that you do need to be aware and have multiple ways to get watch and warning information if that is needed, and be ready to take action if you need to. That will do it for this video, and I'll see you next time.